Why do you think that that's hard to retain? I think a lot of first-gen Filipino Americans are probably thinking that, or wondering that. Why is it they don't retain Tagalog?
I don't know. What do you think? I'll let you go on this one first.
Yeah, it's appropriate for me to answer the question. I think it's because we are not. I think I didn't learn Tagalog because there's not much. I guess because my school is not speaking in Tagalog, or like my friends don't speak Tagalog. So like in church in my
Okay,
Filipino.
hold on. So why don't are you talking about your Filipino friends?
I'm talking about my American friends.
Okay, but Chinese people or Korean people have American friends, but they speak their language.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, my Chinese friends and Korean friends. Well, I think my Korean friends I don't think they retain the language either. But my Chinese friends, they retain it better. I think maybe in part because Chinese people have Chinese school. So they learn the language, or they're forced to learn the language. And then I think also because their parents at home, when they speak to their parents speak to them in Chinese. Like in my experience, my Chinese friends, they would speak to their parents in Chinese. But I guess in my experience, I didn't learn Tagalog because my parents don't speak Tagalog. I mean, they speak Tagalog, but they don't speak Tagalog to me. And also they don't speak Tagalog to each other. So I didn't. And then they speak Ilocano at home, but they don't speak to Ilocano to me. So I don't learn Ilocano. So I think if you want, for the first gens out there who want their kids to learn the Filipino language, you should speak to your kids in your language purely, and then they'll pick up English when they go to school. Is what I would say. Yeah.
Let me kind of address that, speaking to your kids. I think for us, we did that for our kids. We tried to talk to them purely in Tagalog, but then like, I don't know, this is probably just our kid, but he didn't talk. He started like talking late. They're saying part of that is because maybe he hears 2 languages or 3 even, right? As opposed to maybe if it was just English. That could be, that's just our example. But yeah, I think talking to your kids in your native tongue would help. But you also mentioned that that your parents spoke Ilocano. So part of like the struggle with Filipinos is we don't have like just one language. We have so many dialects.
Yeah.
And so at home, like if we have a Filipino community in the US, they probably will speak Tagalog. But even in that community, like you have Ilocano, Kankanaoy, Ibaloy, or whatever, or like Ilonggo, there is like, or Cebuano, there's so many different dialects. But I think one of the reasons maybe that Filipino, it's a lot of reasons that kind of combine together. But in the Philippines, we use English as their medium of instruction. And our parents can't speak English. They're comfortable with that. Now, I'm not sure about other cultures.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm assuming, like, for example, in China, they don't use English as their main language for instruction. And so, to begin with, our parents already are comfortable with English, right? They can speak in English. Second, I think there's a high respect for people, at least in our parents' generation. There's kind of like that, like, wow, like this guy can speak English. Like there's a high respect for people who can speak English, right? So like a high view of that, as opposed to maybe other cultures, like they prioritize learning their language.
Oh yeah.
Like there's more respect if you can speak your own language. as opposed to like being able to speak English. Third, I think Filipinos are very adaptable. Now that's good, but it can also be bad because like we try to adapt in every situation, we try to fit in every situation, and that means like even speaking that kind of spills over even with like speaking English. So like we speak English at home, we speak English to our children, and frankly also fourth, maybe it's easier that way to communicate that way to our children. So I think those kind of things help to I guess like help in this this thing where Filipino kids don't speak Tagalog.
Yeah, those are all good points.
Yeah, it's almost as if like it's not necessary for them to like speak Tagalog.
Yeah.
And you're thinking like, well, are my kids ever gonna go to the Philippines? Are they ever gonna use this language? So
yeah, I think in your case, I know that is a problem. I've had coworkers who are like Vietnamese. They say that they had that problem too. Like they are like, a lot of parents have told me that too. Where like I say, why didn't you teach your kid Tagalog? Like that's something I wish my parents did to me. And then they'll say, yeah, we tried, but they were having a hard time speaking in general, or like, so they had to focus on one language. So I understand what you're saying, but then at the same time, at least in some Filipino Americans that I know who speak Tagalog, they told me that it's because their grandma or grandpa or their I think that's what they say. They say they had to learn Tagalog because that's the only language that their lola spoke. So maybe it's not the parent should speak to the kid. Maybe it's the lola and lolo who has to speak that language to them.
Yeah. And I think part of that too is like how much I guess like how much it seems like in other Asian cultures there's so much pride in who they are, there's so much pride in who they are that they want to make sure that their children also are have that same pride for their people group or their culture or their country.
You mean other Asians?
Yeah.
Or other diseases?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think definitely would help the church if Filipino Americans can speak Tagalog, because that's how you learn culture, or one way of learning culture and understanding culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, are you talking about the second gen? It'd be easier
second
for
gen. It would be easier, not just for second gen, but for first gen too. Right. Like, have you ever met someone who speaks Tagalog who does not understand Filipino culture or speaks like Filipino dialect?
No.
It seems like everyone we've met that speaks Filipino dialect are more understanding of Filipino culture.
Yeah, good point.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you're gonna have kids, what are you gonna do?
So this is the plan, but I don't know how it's gonna work, and I don't even know if we're gonna have kids. But we're thinking I'll speak to them in English, Sarah will speak to them in Tagalog, and then my parents will speak to them in Ilocano.
Yeah, so see, like even that, right? Like so many dialects, but I think for most other Asian cultures, that I feel like they don't have that many dialects compared to us. Again, I might be wrong. I'm not as familiar with other Asian countries and their dialects. Mm-hmm. But for us, it's because we're a lot of Philippines is just really a group of islands with different cultures and different dialects.
Yeah.
I feel like it's easier if there was just one main Filipino language. Right? Like for me, like my kids, right? I speak to them in English. My wife and I speak to them in English and Tagalog. And then my parents speak to them in Kankanay and Ilocano.
Oh man.
So it can be quite difficult. So then we might just focus on one for now, so they can adjust well in life here. And then our plan is to, well, at least I'm thinking that we will expose them as much to the Philippines as much as possible. So hopefully when this pandemic is over.
Why didn't you focus on Tagalog to them and then let them learn English when they get older?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like we did, but then like he was already 3 or 4, and all he was saying was and you get worried, and you're like, man, why is he not talking?
Yeah, but I think I'm confused because it's like as if you were in the Philippines, like he would have this. Would he have the same issue?
Yeah, but when you go to church, all the other kids are speaking. The other kids are speaking, and they're talking in English, and your kid is not. So you're you know, even though you really want to teach them your dialect, if they're not interacting, you're more worried about that than you're worried about them growing up and talking in like Tagalog or another dialect.
So you decided to choose English because that's the language that everyone else is speaking.
Yeah, at a certain point we had to decide to do English, especially if he was gonna go to school.
Okay.
Right.